Thursday, first Thursday of the month. Our 10:30 segment is devoted to law enforcement discussion with Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker. He joins us via the Zoom connection from the Sheriff's Department in Allegan. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Gary.
Glad you are with us. And if you have a question about law enforcement, specifically about Allegan County law enforcement, Sheriff Baker is the man to ask at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Frank, first of all, let's talk about this coming weekend and the challenges for you and your staff in keeping roads safe on this last holiday of summer. It does have some different challenges, maybe than some other holidays, if there is. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating it, Frank. I don't know.
Well, all of them kind of bring their own unique challenges. It's one of those things where we look at the three main holidays that we see in the summer, with the Memorial Day, the 4th of July, and Labor Day. Obviously, it kind of intensifies everybody's desire to be out and to be having fun. And we certainly want to encourage that, but we also certainly want to encourage that to do so safely. This being the last major holiday of the summer, we do anticipate that if the weather cooperates, that we'll be busy. We'll be very busy probably. Everybody wants to get out on the water those last times, enjoy their boats and have fun. So we know that the Saugatuck area in particular will be probably very busy. So our Marine Patrol will be out. On our roadways, we know that everybody will be out celebrating, having fun, whether it's out on the boat or having a picnic or out camping or doing whatever they're doing. And we want to encourage everybody to do so safely. But we understand that we want you to have fun, but if you're drinking, please don't get out and drive. We want to make sure everybody makes it home safe so that they all enjoy the weekend.
The challenges on the waters. I know since last we chatted, we had a tragic situation in the waters of Lake Michigan on the Allegan County side. And without going into too much detail about that, but it certainly showed to a certain extent whenever there is a situation such as what we had, the Allegan County Sheriff's Department's Marine unit not only is utilized, but they work hand in glove with some of the other units, be it the state police, be it the Coast Guard, to deal with situations such as that.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon for us to have occasionally different training opportunities where we work together with some of our partners on the water. We work very closely, obviously, with the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office, the Van Buren County Sheriff's Office, because of the unique situation of having Holland and Lake Macatawa kind of bordering both counties. We also have down in the South Haven area where we have the Black River and the port there at South Haven where our jurisdictions almost overlap. And so we do work very closely with one another. And then, of course, with the Coast Guard, because they're a key player in this as well. And of course, the state police, whenever we end up with those unfortunate situations where we're looking at dive rescues. We have our own dive rescue team, as do some of the other counties, but we also utilize the services of the state because some of these rescues and recoveries can take many days. And obviously, this is something that we want to make sure that the divers are safe. So we work with our partners to make sure that the resources are there so that everybody accomplishes the mission, but does so safely.
Another road question I want to throw at you, or sort of get a comment on, Sheriff Frank Baker, is the fact that for much of the spring and summer, major work is done on US 131 east side of the county in the Bradley area, the reconstruction of the M129, 129th Avenue Junction near the Gun Lake Casino, but also the reconstruction of southbound / westbound I-196 from Allegan Street, M40 all the way through Saugatuck and into Douglas, and also the work in the Glen area as well. I know that for a lot of it is the state police that watches those major arteries, but the Allegan County Sheriff's Department certainly is involved whenever there are some problems with those two construction projects. Based on the reports you've been getting, has it been just a normal situation with those two construction projects, or has it gone a little bit smoother in terms of accidents, or what?
I don't know if I'd necessarily say smoother because we know we're always going to get these, these fender benders that occur whenever you have traffic backing up. And I actually got caught in it one time over on 196 myself. I was me and the wife are going to make a trip over to Saugatuck for the afternoon, and I unfortunately got caught in about an hour-long traffic jam there on the freeway, and made the mistake of not bypassing it and going around it. But yeah, we know that's going to happen, and so we anticipate it, and we work well with the state, both MDOT and the state police, to make sure that resources are in place. We try to, when we can, actually be a little proactive, and we do some patrol in these areas to kind of slow the traffic down, because it's that situation when you got traffic not even necessarily stopped, but when it's slowed and you have approaching traffic at a much higher rate of speed, that according effect occurs, and that's when you end up with further back. You end up with rear end crashes, and then obviously then it backs things up even worse. So we're out there. We're trying to do what we can to make it as stress-free as possible for the motorists, and we understand the inconvenience and the frustration when the traffic gets that way. But like I say, we're doing what we can, and MDOT tries to keep us informed of when they're going to make some of these more significant changes. I know there's one coming, I believe, over in the Bradley area where they're moving the lanes again, and that causes some concern, because we're actually having to stop for small periods of time traffic so that they can get the barriers moved over and switch traffic over. But the projects seem to be going well. They seem to be making some, the weather's been cooperating, so they've made some improvements. Hopefully they're ahead of schedule. We can get the roads back to normal.
If you got a question for Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker, he'll be happy to take it at 616-395-1450, 616-395-1450. Last week we had Ottawa County Sheriff Steve Kempker join us, and we talked about the fact that his lead detective, Captain Jake Sparks, has had to fill some pretty big shoes with the retirement of Captain Mark Bennett. It looks as if the Allegan County Detective Bureau's had to have some changes going on as well, because, let's put it this way: police and sheriff's deputies and sheriff's people, they can't live forever, and they got to retire.
Yeah. And one of the things we did was, we had an opportunity where we had a retirement, and we did some restructuring, actually. Years ago, back when I was a detective, our detective bureau was much more robust. The budget allowed for more detectives and various specialty type teams that focused on certain types of crime. And at that time, I was assigned to periodically to the general case detective. I was also one that investigated crimes against children, predominantly sexual assaults against children in that. But through some of the leaner budget years, let's say, our staffing was reduced in the detective bureau. And at that time, we kind of got away from having a command staff person running the detective bureau. So we recently had a retirement at the captain level. Captain Kuhn, I think, who's been a guest on here before, talking about traffic crash reconstruction in that. He retired, and so it gave us the opportunity to kind of do some restructuring. We have some positive things happening at the sheriff's office. We have some staffing being added to our department. So what we've done is we've taken that captain position and we've converted that to a lieutenant position. And that lieutenant position will oversee all of our investigative division. So I'm happy to announce that Sergeant Mike Brown has been promoted to Lieutenant Mike Brown, and he will be leading our detective bureau. And you recall, I probably talked about this with you last year, Gary. Through the budget process, we were able to add a couple of positions. Well, last year we added a detective assigned to providing the technology that was needed for us to investigate crimes. This is a detective that has the capability of downloading cell phones and laptops and various electronic devices so that we can use the data that's inside of those to help us solve crime. So we added that position last year. This year we're going to be adding, I'm happy to say and announce that we're going to be adding a domestic violence investigator at the start of the year. And that's part of kind of beefing up our investigative division. Domestic violence is something that unfortunately we see every day. We average 1 to 2 DV cases every day, 7 days a week, 24/7. I think last year when I looked, we had about 600 domestic violence cases that we investigated. And that's just the sheriff's office. That's not counting our city police departments and the state police and our other law enforcement partners. But it's a serious issue, so we're going to focus some resources on that. years ago, we had a detective assigned specifically to domestic violence. And we think that hopefully this will help us make an impact. I know for sure that it's more helpful to the victims. And when you have a detective that's able to be a resource to that victim, to be able to follow up with that victim, to reassure that victim that we are doing what we can to support them and to make sure that their case makes it through the criminal justice system with whatever help and nudging along the way that is needed, that we can provide justice for the victim and make sure those victims are safe.
Let me throw you a curveball question, Frank Baker. It involves cold cases. I'm not going to ask you if there's any active ones, because maybe you want to try to keep it close to the vest and you don't want to let anybody, show your hand and use a poker sense before that. But when, say, for example, the Allegan County Sheriff's Department gets involved in a cold case or is asked to get involved with a cold case, is it a case of, maybe having to reserve set aside a manpower person in that regard, or is just add on to the inbox for the ongoing detectives?
Well, it's usually both. And I can tell you recently, last year, if you recall, we had a cold case that occurred back in the 80s of a homicide of a young lady that we were able to bring to a close and a good conclusion for the family and provide closure. And I can tell you, during my time as a detective, even periodically being assigned to that case. But one of the things that we do is occasionally, when we keep obviously track of these, and every now and then we when time permitting, if we see an opportunity, we do reassign resources to specifically investigate those cold cases. Our most recently, what we do is we partner with other agencies. We bring in the state police, work with them to bring on an investigator. We use one of our investigators, and then we can kind of partner them up and do that. Occasionally, like I say, it's just another responsibility you got. But it's really nice when we can just focus the resources right directly at that. And I think that's when we've had most of our luck. A few years ago, back when, it's Captain Scott Mattice now was running the Detective Bureau, we had brought in some retired detectives, hired them back to work, and did a really fine job of bringing closure to several of those. So, it's something that we periodically look at, and it's something that, unfortunately, we don't have the resources to have a permanent cold case team, but we do, take a swing at that every now and then to try to make sure we can do the best we can with the resources we have.
I'm just remembering just vaguely, and I don't have the, I'd have to do some quick typing and stuff like that, but I remember the woman that was found killed, and I think in Allegan County, and the husband was found, or shall we say, last seen in Maine, heading into Canada.
Correct.
And I think that still is an open case right now, based on
yes, it is.
So.
Yes, it is. And periodically we get tips, and we work with some of the federal law enforcement agencies that are obviously many of these tips are not local for us, so it's hard and difficult for us to investigate them. So we work with other law enforcement partners to try to follow up on any tips that we receive.
But if those of us who do remember, the Janet Chandler case eventually got solved and people were brought to justice. So if that case can get solved, I think most of the other cases hopefully will be solved one day or another. Frank, you mentioned about some restructuring done in the Detective Bureau of your department, but that's not the only changes I see coming out of the Allegan County Sheriff's Department. Tell us a little bit about some of the others.
No, and first off, Gary, I'd like to thank the citizens of Allegan County and our County Board of Commissioners. If you recall, maybe a little over a year ago now, there was a countywide survey done to get the input of the citizens on where they felt the county should be focusing resources. And one of the areas that finished on top was public safety. And our Board of Commissioners recognized that, and working with some of the budgetary improvements that have occurred or allowed to have been improved, we're adding positions to the sheriff's office to make hopefully Allegan County a safer place to kind of live, work, and do business. But I talked about the detectives that we've added. We're also adding 2 additional people to the road patrol, and we're adding 2 additional people to the corrections center. And One of the things that we're hoping to do is through the improvements in the corrections side is kind of reduce the amount of overtime we have, where we're forcing deputies in on overtime to meet our minimum staffing requirements, because obviously the Department of Corrections has a minimum staffing that we have to have for that correction center. So we're hoping to make some improvements there, see some budget relief on the overtime side. But one of the things that we're doing is we're looking to redo the way we do some of our inmate visitation. Used to be we had kiosks on the wall. We're moving towards tablets now. And it's going to allow us to hopefully be able to make improvements to our GED program and to hopefully get even more graduates. It's been a big focus of ours to improve the opportunities for inmates to get their GED and also participate in a career readiness program. So we're hopefully going to be moving towards the tablets. We'll hopefully increase the capacity to be able to provide that opportunity to inmates. On the road patrol side, one of the real positives is that working with county administration and our budgets, we've been able to through some of the early retirements or retirements people have had earlier this year, and the time between retirement and rehiring, that our budget is going to allow us to actually put some of these deputies to work sooner than we had hoped. So we're hiring actually for our 2022 budget year. So we'll get these guys in training and gals in training early, and then we'll see them on the road earlier and hopefully make our community safer.
Now, I will have to ask you this though, Frank, numbers in terms of trying to get people on board. I would assume the Allegan County Sheriff's Department is not immune to trying to fill vacancies and having more vacancies than applicants. The help wanted sign might be out a little bit with some of the private businesses, but what about the county sheriff's department?
Well,
are you having that problem too?
It's not just a help wanted sign that's hanging on the door, Gary. We have a beacon going and flashing lights. Not long ago, we had 6 openings on the correction center, and trying to recruit and retain law enforcement corrections officers right now is a challenge. We used to get hundreds of applications for a deputy position. We used to have all kinds of testing and different things that we do just to weed down to where we could get to the best candidates. Now we get a dozen applications. We're basically interviewing about everybody that applies. We're really struggling to get applicants, and we're really starting to beef up and have a recruiting program, because we know that we got to get to these applicants before another agency does. So yeah, it's a real challenge right now, and I'm not sure what the answer is, because we just got to get and return to a time when people want to be in the law enforcement and corrections field. So it's a challenge right now.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, Frank, about dealing with the respect factor. Right now, and a year ago was really heightened. The weakening relations between the public and law enforcement. We have pretty good, strong relations here, but obviously with the events in Minneapolis and other communities, and the fact that defund the police and all that, it kind of leads one to believe, who want to get that as a profession? And we sort of hate to say this, we got to get this back to becoming a noble profession that is respected by the public, not disdained by the public.
And that's very true. It's unfortunate that there are a few people across the United States that have kind of caused or precipitated this to occur, because it's certainly not a profession-wide type issue with some of the use of force and different things that have occurred. And we're certainly very cognizant of that. We don't want to do anything to erode the trust and the support that we get from our community, because we do get tremendous support from the Allegan County residents and in West Michigan as a whole. So we're very aware of that. We want to do what we can to be as transparent as we can, to reflect what the values are of our community, and to be the servants that they want. And I'm very proud of our people. They do a tremendous job. They're very dedicated, and they are really looking to make our community safer and to be play an active role in that. So we're very thankful for that, and we do what we can. But it's something that I think it's a big issue, and we just got to look at how we're going to make some improvements.
Manpower is one issue, Sheriff Frank Baker, but I think another challenge will be keeping up with technology, keeping up with equipment, vehicles. Let's put it this way: the life of a prowl car is not that long, and every once in a while, it's like, hey, I gotta get 3 more cruisers in here, and trying to budget that around that's not fun at all.
No, in fact, there's probably none of us that got into this profession to sit at this desk and to work with budgets. And I can tell you that, when I talk to guys, we jokingly call them the old stories, of the times when we were out actually doing police work. Those are the stories we talk about. You have a beverage or two and you're reminiscing. It's certainly not about the time we had to cut the budget or we had to figure out how we're going to pay for a patrol car or how we're going to put gas in patrol cars. So that's very true, Gary.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, okay, this is fiscal 2023. I got a budget for 3 more vehicles and maybe another boat. And, it's part of the business, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is. Very true. Very true.
With that, we are going to button up our conversation with Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker. We always appreciate his thoughts about law enforcement when he joins us on a monthly basis. Frank, thank you very much for joining us. And if all goes well, we'll do this all again next month.
Sounds good, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Allegan County Sheriff Frank Baker on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.